Welcome back to the channel, everyone. So you decided you want to start collecting diecast, Hot Wheels, Matchbox, Corgis, Johnny Lightning, runs the gambit. 164th, 125th, whatever. And now you've had them for a while and they just don't look the way you want them to, so you want to change them, right? You want to change the way this looks. It's pretty simple, but it's not pretty simple. What do I mean? Stand by, we'll get into all that. So you have this car, and you've decided now that you've had it for a while. It's beat up, it's banged up, the paint's looking rough, or you didn't like the paint to start with. Or you want it to look like your own car. You have a Mustang like this, you want it to look like your car. You can change the way this car looks. It depends on how far down the rabbit hole you want to go. And we'll get into that further as this video goes on, and I'll explain what I'm talking about. So you have to assess what it is you want, what it is you're thinking you want to do. Me personally, I want some of the older Hot Wheels, like the heavy Chevys and stuff like that, so those cars can be a couple $100. Well, you can find them cheaper, you know, 10, 15, 25, and then restore them. We'll get into that here in just a few minutes. But for right now, you just want to make this car look like your car. Easy. Let me show you how. So, what's the very cheapest way and the easiest way to do it without any extra tools, modifications, or anything? You're going to start off with a roll of tape, right? Masking tape. Now this is household tape, and this will get you by in a pinch, but I strongly recommend, if you're going to be doing more than just one, going to your local hobby store or looking online and getting you some actual airbrush masking tape, because out of the spray can and out of airbrushes, the paint is thinner than household paint, and it will bleed under this. Like if you're trying to do stripes or something, you can get bleed underneath this. In other words, you got it pressed down, you know you've got it pressed down, you spray it, you peel the tape off, and there's a couple little dots of paint that went under the tape. That's called bleed. You don't want that, but this will get you by for the very simplest, okay? Now, like I said, you want this to look just like your car. Well, your car is very simple. There's a paint code in your dash or in the trunk of your car. You can look that up, or you could go online and type in what's the color code for 1982 Mustang Fastback. I know there ain't such thing, but yeah, let's just say that, okay? You walk in any Walmart, well, almost any Walmart, AutoZone, Advance Auto, places like that, and they have Duplicolor, color match paint, right? $6, $7 a can. And this is enough to do several of these. You go in there, you look for the paint color, and voila, you've got the same color of the car. While you're in there, pick you up a can of primer if you want it to turn out really good. Doesn't matter, white, gray, black. Oh, I'd stay away from the reds unless you're going to do like a flat black paint job, or your car is going toward the red color. Stay away from those. So then you take the tape, tape up your wheels, right? Tape up the base if you don't want to paint the base, and you tape up the windows, okay? Take you a piece of sandpaper, any in the hundreds, 800 to 1,000, something like that. Wet it, lightly sand the body. Don't get carried away, just lightly sand it. Don't try to remove the color or anything. Then take your spray paint, rattle can, because it rattles, spray primer on it, okay? Let that dry a couple hours. Rattle cans are designed to dry quick. Let it sit out in the sun for a couple hours. Forget about it. Go get you a cup of coffee, a snack, a sandwich, adult beverage, whatever you're into. Come back. Once you come back, look it over. If it looks good, you're ready to go to the paint. If it doesn't look so good, take that same wet sandpaper, wet it again. Like, you know, if you got dust in it or a little air bubble or something, lightly sand it, and you're good. Take your color and go over it. Now, when you're doing the primer and the paint, light coats are your friend. And like I said, spray paint dries quickly. It's designed to. Light coats. Don't try to spray, cover the whole car in one time, because what you're going to do is, if it has any detail, like door handles, door cracks, hood seams, anything like that. If you put it on heavy, all that's going to disappear, and your finished product will look like a big old blob. It really will. Okay? And then let that hit it with your color paint. Like I said, couple coats. Light is your friend. Let it dry for a couple hours. Take the tape off. Enjoy what you've done. It's that simple. Now, if you're like me, you want to go a little further than that. And let's start in on that. Next up, one of the most common things, people like the colors, they like the body style, they like the paints, they don't want to modify it, but they do not like the wheels. Okay? Let's suppose you want these wheels on this car. You can do it. It's very simple. Depending on the cars, depending on the wheels that you're trying to put in, it's very, very simple. At the very easiest form, here's what you need to do. The base is going to have to come off of the body, okay? If you look, and all cars are different, some have two, some have one, but if you look, there's what looks like a rivet right there, and there's one right there, okay? You have to take those out. How do you take them out? Drill. So you're going to have a drill. Doesn't matter, battery powered, electric, doesn't matter as long as you have a drill. So you're going to need a drill bit, okay? Now you can buy kits because these are going to have to go back together. So you know, a little bit of thought process into what you're going to do. You can glue them back together, just forget about the post altogether, okay? But in the very simplest form, let's start there. You're going to need a drill and a drill bit. I recommend, and I'll be doing a series of videos, like I said, starting with drilling these apart, all the way up to customization. I recommend drilling the center of the post out because if you look, it's already got a hole there. So if you make that hole go deeper, switch drill bits to one that's just a little bit bigger, and always test fit your drill bit. You don't want to go any bigger than the head of that rivet. And really it's not a rivet, it's part of the post, and the machine comes down and presses it and makes it look like a rivet. But you don't want to go down too far because this is plastic. If you go down too far, you're limited by what you can do. Okay, they make small screws, and they actually make small rivets that you can put back in, glue them back in. But if you make the hole bigger, well, now you either just have to glue the body in, or you're going to have to use a screw or a rivet with a small washer. And yes, they do make those. A lot. I haven't found them locally. You have to order them online, eBay, hobby shops, stuff like that. You can get them that way, and we'll go into all that. You got 172, 1-72 and 2-56. Okay, that's the rivets and the screws. You can go either or. If you want the factory look, you can put rivets back in it. Just glue the rivets back in when you're done. We'll get in all that as we do the other videos. But anyhow, you're gonna have to have 2 drill bits, one to go down the center of that, like I said, right, and one to take the head off. Just do it real, hit it, bump it off, on and off. You don't want to sit here and try to go until you see the top pop off, because that ain't going to happen. Trust me. A lot of times you have to get a small screwdriver here and kind of wedge it, wiggle it, pry it out. Okay? Now, like on this plastic base, whenever you take it off, it's going to have 3 little prongs at each axle. There's a wire axle that runs across there. Okay? Typically, the easiest way is to just snip one of those off. You got 2 on one side and 1 on the other, and it wedges the axle in there. And I'll be posting photos and stuff to show you. Okay, so just take it and grind one off, cut it off with a pair of pliers, whatever. And then of course you're going to have donor wheels, right? If you're going to use another car, you got to do that to 2 cars. Then if they fit, they're the same width, right? You could take these or these, whichever way you're going, swap them over and then glue them in. I strongly recommend the gel type of glue, because what happens is the thin kind, whenever you put a dot on there, it wants to spread, it'll follow the path until it dries. Okay, and a lot of times what will happen is people end up gluing their wheels to where it won't spin. You don't want that. That defeats the whole purpose. So then you're with a car that you can't use or roll, or you're going to take it back apart and do it again, right? Now, if you look at these, they're 2 different widths. let's say for the sake of argument, I want these wheels on this car, okay? Notice how these are wider? They'll fit on this, but they won't look right, okay? So you do the same thing. You take this car apart, snip off that little lip, but in this case, you're going to have to take a small file and the little track where the axle actually sits, you're going to have to open it up a little bit. And I will be doing a video on how to do wheel swaps in all these in various stages, so stay tuned, it's coming. Or you can look on YouTube, and there's other people out there that does it all the time. I mean, there's tons of videos out there. I'm just going to try to do mine just in case you don't want to go look for the videos, okay? Now, any hobby shop like Hobby Lobby, places like that, sells these little tubes. This happens to be a brass one, but they do it in aluminum and all that stuff, right? But for axles, I strongly recommend using brass. It's just stiffer. So what you do, you got the axles out, you got the tires out, right? Now you've done the same thing to the car you want to put it on, because this is a little bit more narrow. So now you're going to have to cut a piece of this, right, to fit that opening between here and there. You don't want it sticking out beside. You don't want it sticking out further than the side of the base on either side. Once you have that cut, you glue that in place, okay? Then you take the wider tires, which are still in the axles, and you're going to have to cut the axle, okay? Once you cut the axle, you can then stick it inside the tubes and get it to where the wheels fit inside the body just like this. They roll freely, and you glue them in place. And then put it back together like I said. Either drill and tap, use the rivet, or glue it, right? I like to glue the drill and tap for the simple reason is if I ever want to do another wheel swap, and there's manufacturers on eBay, Instagram, Facebook that make custom wheels. Different colors, different shapes, different sizes, and it runs the gamut. Again, I will be going more in depth on all those things in future videos, okay? Now, we're to the next phase, which is more of a customization. You now know how to paint the car, you now know how to strip the car down. Well, since you have the car apart, now would be the good time if you need new glass, and yes, you can order new glass or windshields. Now is the time to take care of those things, okay? If you want to make this a professional looking paint job on this car, now you need a way to strip it. You need to get the paint off of this car with the stickers, because the more down the rabbit hole you go, the better quality your finish will be, okay? So now you need a stripper. You can go to your local Lowe's, Home Depot, and all that stuff and buy stuff like regular paint stripper and all that, but it has toxic fumes and everything. One of the most popular ones right now is a chemical called citrus strip, and it's orange. You know, citrus is orange, so it's colored orange, and it's a little thicker, so you can actually brush it on. You put it in a container and dump the whole car in it, body only, and strip the paint. Once you strip the paint, take some steel wool, get all the excess paint off of it, and then you're ready to go. Then again, back to the beginning, the primer and the paint. Now there are other colors out there, pearls and Spectraflame colors like the original Hot Wheels and all that stuff. You don't use primer with that. You have to have a good body, right? A good body to do that. And with that, you're going to have to, it's going to be more involved. And we'll talk about that here in the next section. But after you get it painted, same process. Put it back together, put your wheels in it, axle swaps, whatever you need to do. And then you'll have that car ready to go. And I strongly recommend on any of these procedures, just find a car you care nothing about, or even buy one that you don't care about. Practice taking them apart if that's the route you're going to go. Practice drilling that out. Practice cutting this. Practice gluing the wheels in. You know, practice. So when you get that one car that you want and you don't want to mess it up, now you know that you can do it. Practice. Now let's go on to the next level of craziness. Now once you get into this next level, the tools, the techniques, everything becomes a little bit more pricey and a little bit more complicated. The complication just went from a 1 to a 3. The price just went from a 1 to a 10. And again, it depends on how far down the rabbit hole you want to go, and I'll touch on that in just a second. But you decided you want to completely restore this car. Like I said, hold on.
5 minutes later.
Alright, I had to go in here and get these so I can show you, demonstrate. I like Hot Wheels. I really have. I've collected them all my life, on and off. I was born in 1966, and the first Hot Wheels started being made in 68, came out in 69, right? So with that said, the older versions cost more. And the thing with that is, I'm not going to spend $250 to $500 for a loose car, right? I'm just not going to do it. But I have been to flea markets, yard sales, stuff like that, and there's always a box of cars sitting over in the corner, you know, Matchbox, Hot Wheels, all that stuff mixed in. And some of them are missing wheels, the axles are really bent, crushed. Paint's always non-existent and really rough, right? But you get that car for $1. If you just have the know-how to restore it. Now we're in the restoration. Back to new, okay? Now if you look at this one, Poison Pinto, right? If you look at it real good, it's not in perfect shape. The paint is kind of flat. It's gone on some of the edges, some of the corners, right? It's not perfect. I am still tickled to death to have it, because I'm going to restore it or customize it. Me, whenever I have an old car, I like to restore it, because let's face it, one day these cars are going to get harder and harder to find. Now yes, by me customizing it, putting a different color on it, different stickers on it, whatever, somebody further down the road can get this car and do a full restoration if they so choose. So it's up to you. You're only limited by what your imagination, okay, or your thought process. But let me show you. Take this one out. You can buy them in really, really rough shape, okay? I mean, you really can. Paint about completely gone and everything. And then turn it into a pristine model, right? Paint has the gloss on it and all that good stuff. See the difference? So to take one that's really beat up and put it back together as new, it's called a restoration. And restorations can be very involved. And let me explain to you what I mean. Get those over there out of the way so I don't mess them up. You can get really, really good results with a spray can. You can. You can get professional quality results out of a spray can. But it just involves more labor. Because the atomization and stuff that comes out, or the droplets that come out of those spray cans, are larger than a air gun. So when they hit, they'll hit and then it spreads out. And that's where you get your coverage from. It hits and spreads out and they overlap. Well, if you look at that in the light, just perfect, right? You look at it in the light just perfect. You can see bumps. And that's like on an orange. And that's where it gets its name, orange peel. Now you can get rid of that. You could take the, if you have the car apart, or even with it still together, you can take sandpaper. Start off with 400, go up to 600, 1200. Depending on how fine you want to go, just wet sand the body until all of that is gone. Okay? Just wet sand it. And by moving up in stages of paper, you're making the scratches that you're putting in it smaller and smaller and smaller. Then once you get it to where you like it, take your favorite automotive compound or wax and rub it on there. Take a rag, put it on there, or even a buffet pad, an application pad, and rub it on there and just buff it like you would your car outside. And it will make that paint smooth. But if you want to forego that, right, and you want a better quality paint job, okay, now you're moving up. Airbrush. See what I say about how far down the rabbit hole you want to go? Airbrush, airbrush, airbrush. They are time consuming. And the reason I say they're time consuming, let's say you're into doing scale models or larger die cast, and you're using multiple colors, okay? Unless you got a lot of money, you're limited to one airbrush. And you can get these like this, 25 bucks, and they go all the way up to $400. I've seen them $400. I personally don't need one for $400 for doing a dollar car, right? Now, if I was going to be doing t-shirts or painting on real cars with the airbrush, you know how you see them done and everything, well then I could justify it, but not for a dollar car. Open this up so you can see. But you get everything you need in it, except for the stuff to clean it with. You get a little pipe it to where you can put the paint, take the paint and put it in the cup. You get the brush, you get the cap, all kind of different little things for it. And you get the little wrench so you can take it apart and clean it. Right, God, I would take it out, but my fingers are not wanting to go in that hole right now. But you get a little wrench to where you can completely take it apart to clean it. And that's where the time comes in. If you're going to be switching over in between colors, or you're switching from one color to a clear coat, something like that, well then you got to clean this out. You've got to. Otherwise you're going to have that color bleeding into your other color, or you're going to have your color bleeding over into your clear, and it's just going to be a huge mess. So you have to clean it. That's where the time comes in. Quality though of the paint job, if you're looking and wanting to start out with perfect paint jobs, airbrush is the way to go. Forego this. Now you can take this and put into this, and that's called decanting, and we'll cover that in a later video. But you take a container and you take there's two ways to do it, and we'll get in all that, but basically you're taking the paint out of this, putting in another container in a little bottle, and then you've got the paint that you're using your air gun. Okay, we'll get in that later. But remember I said the cost went up? Okay, 25 bucks for this. That ain't bad. Not bad at all. How are you going to get the paint out of this? They actually make some that has a little generator. I mean a little compressor. And you put the air gun on top of it. And for me that'd be a little too bulky, too clumsy, but it might be just right for you. It's a rechargeable. There's no cords hooked up to it, no nothing, except during the charging process. And one of the best ones out there that I know of right now, I forget the name of the company that puts it in, it's Airbrush Company or something like that. I'll put the info in, but it's called No Name, and there's no name on it except for No Name, right? And it's just, like I said, it's just all in one. Let's assume that this is the airbrush, right? Got the airbrush, and there's a canister that looks like a paint can sticking out here. You take this, and there's an on-off switch on the bottom and a USB adapter, and you just plug that in, you charge it up, unplug it, turn it on, tell it whether you want high pressure or low pressure, and go to spraying. You can start with that. Well, if you don't want to do that, right, to get this onto the car, well then you got to fork out money, right? You got to fork out some money. You got to have a compressor. Got to. You got to get the paint out of this. Now that happens to be a Harbor Freight one. You can buy the kit for $89. It has the siphon feed, and we'll talk about difference in guns later. But it's basically a larger container, and it sucks it out into the pump, into the gun from the bottom. But it comes with the air hose, the kit, and all that stuff for $89. And then by the time you include tax and all that, you're looking at 100 bucks. Or if you have a 20% off coupon, right? You can use that. They're famous for their 20% off. But I got this one. This one is the same exact compressor that comes in the kit, but it doesn't have the airbrush kit, because I didn't need the airbrush kit. It's $20. Well, I didn't need it right now. Eventually I'll get another one. I'll explain that in another video. But 69 bucks, 20% off coupon. It took it down to $47, I think it was. So then I was able to get me another hose, because I did not like this type of hose. Now the upgraded kit also comes with a different hose. But these hoses, if you've ever dealt with them, they're constantly pulling against you. They don't want to sit just right and all that stuff. So I took what I saved by buying this and bought me the hose, because I already had the air gun. So you can see this just gets deeper and deeper and deeper. But now, with that, the color is up to you. You can mix your own colors. You can use acrylics. You can use enamels. You can use urethanes. And like I said, now you can spray the Spectraflames. The Spectraflames, you can actually make your own, and they're very, very close. And we'll cover that in another video too. You can actually make your own, and all you need is some urethane paint, right? And some ink pens. Like I said, we'll get into that later, along with the decanting and all that. But it just depends, you know, this is just a few of the tools you need. You're going to need an assortment of brushes and all that stuff for the details. Like if you're going to go all out and get a spray gun, you're going to be detailing the car. You're going to be painting the tail lights red. You're going to be painting the exhaust, probably silver. You're going to be painting the headlights, the grills, some of the interior details. You're going to be painting that. Otherwise, you wouldn't want to spend couple $100, right? And those compressors, I've seen them from $40 all the way up to $400 and $500, because then you've got the ones that have the tanks on them, or you got the ones that are constantly on and off, on and off. And then that brings us up to the next caveat. Where are you going to be spraying? Do you have a garage? Do you have a workshop? Or are you going to have to be doing it in the house? Okay. Regardless of which one, I think if you're going to put all this money into it, because you want a quality paint job, you want the paint to be the best it can be. So you don't want dust and stuff falling in the paint when it's wet. Or if you're like me, you don't have a garage or a workshop, all you could do is in your room or outside. Okay. So now they make paint booths. They're small. They fold up. They don't take up a lot of room. They're a little on the noisy side, so you can't do it late at night when people are trying to sleep and you can't get this paint job off your mind, right? But they make them, and they come with kits to where you can run the ventilated out to open air out your window or wherever you want to vent it to. But typically you don't have to use it because it's got a nice filtration system in it and everything. And you can find them $40 on up, you know, depending on price. And typically the higher the price, the bigger it goes. But you know, typically you don't want anything any bigger than 2 foot, you know. And they run about $100, $125, but you can find them on sale. They're real handy. And it's just one of those extra things, you know. Like I said, it depends on how far down that rabbit hole you want to go. So it all depends on the assessment. What you assess. I'm going to leave that in. You assess what you want to do with the car. Like I said, I'm going to be practicing on this one. I'm thinking about going white, right, for the paint. Maybe a sublime green stripe down the side or down the top, because you see this one has stripes. I might be doing a sublime down it. I'm going to be painting the hood scoop flat black, and I'm going to be painting the inside either tan or black. So you can see how involved it gets. It's just whatever. But like I said, I strongly recommend practicing on small cars that you don't care about. Even if you just walk in the store, pick up one off the rack, because hey, I want to try this. I want to see how hard it is. I want to see if it's for me. Then you can decide if you want to go down that rabbit hole. I went down it because I can use the airbrush for different things. T-shirts, tags, detailing my cars, whatever I want to do. But there's one more thing. Customization. Custom. You can actually make this car look like no other car. You can make it a wide body. You can use the molders, the modeler's clay, and make wider fenders. You can put bigger tires on it, wider tires. You can make there's companies out there that make racing seats, nitrous bottles, 3D rendered, 3D resin and all that stuff. Or 3D print is what I'm trying to think of. You can put spoilers on it. You can put front lips on it. Whatever you want to do. You can make the doors open. You make the hood open. You make the trunk open. You can make the whole front clip come off, like if it's a drag car. Whatever you want to do. plus decals. Decals, 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 or better known as tampos in the correct verbiage. But you can make your own decals. You can get custom decals. There's companies out there that make them. All you got to do is look for them and find them. Tell them what you want. Send them an idea that you have, and they'll design it and send it back to you if you're not good at designing yourself. You can print them out yourself. The only thing about printing them out yourself is white. Only the higher end, I mean high-end printers print white. Yeah, we're talking about industrial grade printers, not your household. So then you got to think about that. If you got anything that you want white, you're going to have to either use white background paper on the decal, and then that will be the white part of your decal, which then is not quite a smooth paint job and all that. But anyhow, oh, Butterfingers, man. Depending on how far you want to go down that rabbit hole, depends on how what you get, what you buy. Your end result, what you think you want, dictates what you're going to spend. Like I said, yes, you can get professional quality result. A lot of people do it. I'm very good with the spray can. I'm going to do a few with spray cans because I have a couple channels, and one of my channels happens to deal with cars, full size cars, and I'm going to do a couple of them for a giveaway on that channel. So I'm gonna get the cars that look like mine. I'm gonna paint them up like mine, and I'm gonna put the channel name somewhere on the car and do that as a giveaway. You know, it's just those little touches that makes your channels fun, makes the hobby fun, right? Diecast. So I'm going to leave you with that. There's more to all of it, and we'll be touching base on some of that later on. Like I said, decanting, making your own spectral flame paint, your own custom paints, just how to thin the paints, because the acrylics typically need to be thinned to go through an airbrush. So we'll be discussing that. The spectral flame paints require hardeners or activators. We'll be going over that when it comes time to do it. Discussing how to mix it, the right way to mix it, or how everybody else is mixing it. You see the thing. But it all depends on what you have in mind. Do you want to just change colors? Do you want to change just wheels? Do you want to change the whole setup? Do you want to do a resto? Or do you want to do full-on custom? It's all up to you. I hope this video is helpful. I hope you find it useful. I hope you might get an idea from what I'm telling you about how far down it you want to go, because it's worse than Alice in Wonderland. Once you take that plunge, there is no bottom. I hate to tell you, there is no bottom. But I hope you enjoyed the video. We'll see you in the next one. Thank you all so very much for watching. Thanks.